Welcome back to the show, and today, my friends, we are going to be discussing whether Elden Ring, the latest masterpiece from the monstrous mind of Hidetaki Miyazaki, is easy enough to bring new players into the Soulsborne fold. Now, lovers of the Soulsborne genre will know that the word easy isn't really one that you could realistically attach to any game created by Miyazaki and From Software. Easy is simply not part of that studio's DNA. Their games are designed from the ground up to be tough as nails and present a real challenge to any gamer who attempts to overcome them. So from here on out, the question will instead be, is Elden Ring accessible enough for new players instead? Because From Software appears to have made a real effort here with their latest title. So now, without any further ado, let's get into exactly how Elden Ring tries to make itself more accessible to new players and whether it succeeds. First up, it's important to note that there is basically no penalty for dying in Elden Ring, which is fantastic because unless you're a god-level Souls player, in which case I don't know why you would be watching this video, you are going to be doing it a lot. It's part and parcel with the gameplay experience, and we need to learn to enjoy it, because each time you get crushed under the heels of a particularly impressive boss, you will learn a little more about his attack patterns, until eventually you are perfect and he is in the ground. Remember kids, a boss can kill you as many times as it wants, but it can only die once and then it's gone forever. Literally, the only time you need to be nervous about getting pulped is when you're holding a decent amount of runes, which are the chosen currency / XP for Elden Ring. However, if you are unfortunate enough to get ripped to pieces while in possession of a buttload of runes, you will get the opportunity to reclaim them by returning to the point where you died. So my advice would be to use up all of those delicious runes before venturing into an unknown area of the world. No consequences, no fear. But moving on, the open world offers players an excellent way to farm runes, level up, and get access to more powerful weapons, armor, and equipment. So if you ever find yourself butting your head up against a boss, you always have the opportunity to just pick up, head out, and do something else until you're strong enough to come back and take another run at the champ. On that note, there's also a generous amount of more powerful enemies and mini-boss housing sub-dungeons sprinkled liberally around the map, and these help players get to know their build and generally get their eye in on their character's strengths, weaknesses, movements, weapon reach abilities, and attack speed as they're settling into the game. And it's also important to remember, if you don't feel like taking on each and every boss that you stumble upon, well, there's always the option of simply summoning that spectral mount of yours and riding away into the sunset. Because in Elden Ring, if they can't catch you and they don't live in a story dungeon, you simply don't have to fight them. And on a side note, you can sometimes skip entire sections of these story dungeons with a little bit of creative parkouring. Though I wouldn't always suggest this, as you run the risk of missing some NPC interactions and lucrative looting opportunities. But moving on to how you choose to fight, if you are not looking forward to getting up in a boss's face and standing toe-to-toe, you can always opt for a magic build, which specializes in staying out of range and casting magic spells. There are also good ranged options for other builds such as the samurai, which is what I've opted to go for. This class lets you start out the game with an uchi-katana, which has a very tasty unsheathed still and a useful ranged bow, which is literally the only tool I needed to kill the ever-loving flip out of this dumb, stupid dragon. On top of that, if you like to keep your range, early on you're going to gain access to useful summons by traveling to the Church of Ella at night and talking to the Witch Renna, and you can use these summons to basically take the aggro away from enemies and distract them while you cast spells from a distance. And upon reaching the central hub area of the game, you can even upgrade these summons to make them even more powerful. It is my intent to collect each and every one of these spectral curiosities and force them to fight my battles for me like the world's most masochistic Pokemon master. But if you don't feel like playing Spirit Jockey and you just feel like going full nasty into the big bads like a tank made of bad intentions, well, the good news is that you seem to have way more healing items early on in Elden Ring than you do in any other Miyazaki game that I've ever played. You awaken into the world with 4 flasks that can be divided as the player wishes between magic and health restoratives, and you even have the choice during the character creation phase to select a gift to take with you known as a golden seed, which upon resting at a site of grace will immediately allow you to add another charge onto your flasks. And before heading off into Stormvale Castle, which is the first major dungeon of the game, which, contains the first major story boss called Godric the Grafted, you'll have the opportunity to find more golden seeds to add further charges to your flasks, plus items to make them more potent, and even the ability to create an entirely new form of restorative flask. So you get the point. If you explore the map, you'll have plenty of restoratives to help you through those tough early game fights. And once you're through that early phase, you'll really have a better footing of how to continue for the rest of the game anyway. But now onto a point that I really want to emphasize, Elden Ring is a very, very beautiful game, and its visual appeal can have a massive effect on your state of mind and willingness to battle on through the most frustrating of encounters. And I'm not saying that it doesn't have all of the macabre trappings of your standard Souls game. It does, but this time it all unfolds against the backdrop of a gorgeous open world with glowing spectral trees, verdant fields, flowers, and living things. This is a world more than any Souls game to date that you are going to want to spend time in and explore every inch of. And that exploration is going to be extremely rewarding. So in conclusion, yes, Elden Ring is absolutely accessible enough for new players to jump in and have a great time, particularly if they take advantage of video guides and the overwhelming knowledge of the Souls community. Miyazaki has implemented a range of new gameplay mechanics with Elden Ring that make it an overall friendlier experience while keeping true to the tough-as-nails reputation of the Soulsborne genre. And that's it for today's video. Let me know what you thought in the comment section below, and be sure to like and subscribe, and to keep it here for all the biggest news, reviews, and reactions from across the video gaming industry.